It is 1912. In the United States, there is a three-way battle for the presidency. Republican President William Howard Taft, running for re-election, is opposed by former President Teddy Roosevelt, who has formed his own Bull Moose Party. The Democratic candidate is Governor Woodrow Wilson of New Jersey. The campaign is a dramatic one, highlighted by an assassination attempt on Roosevelt's life. He recovers, but the split in the Republican camp decides the election. Woodrow Wilson becomes the 28th president of the United States. The social event of the year is the maiden voyage of the SS Titanic. But a few days out of Belfast, tragedy strikes the great ship. An incredible false headline temporarily puts New Yorkers at ease. But then the story of what actually happened stuns the entire world. In the summer of 1912, Stockholm plays host to almost 2,500 athletes representing 28 countries who will compete in the 5th Olympic Games. On opening day, more than 50,000 people greet King Gustaf of Sweden as he enters the stadium to preside over the Parade of Nations. Marching in the parade are the 174 members of the United States team. Among them are several athletes whose exploits will live forever, but there are some who will endure the longest. One of them is 23-year-old Ralph Craig. He earns the title of the fastest man in the world. Ralph Craig wins the 100 meters and then returns to win the 200 meters. But his Olympic career will not end in Stockholm. 36 years later, Ralph Craig will be selected to carry the flag in the opening day ceremonies at the 1948 London Games as a 59-year-old member of the United States yachting team. Another legendary athlete is the Hawaiian swimmer Duke Kahanamoku. Kahanamoku wins the 100 meters freestyle and 8 years later will repeat his victory at the Antwerp Olympics. Kahanamoku will end his career at the 1932 Los Angeles Games as a member of the United States water polo team. But perhaps the greatest and most enduring name to emerge from the 1912 Stockholm Games is Jim Thorpe. In the only film ever taken of Thorpe at the Stockholm Olympics, the great American Indian receives his awards and trophies from King Gustaf of Sweden with the words, "Sir, you are the greatest athlete in the world." But of all the 174 American athletes who competed in the 1912 Stockholm Olympics, there is one who has endured the longest. This is 92-year-old Abel Kiviat of New Jersey. After more than 7 decades, he returns to Stockholm and memories of the past, to the place where the SS Finland docked and where the American team stayed throughout the games, and then on to the stadium where he competed. 72 years ago in Stockholm at age 20, Abel Kiviat was the favorite to win the 1,500 meters. He led throughout the race, but in the final 100 meters, he was passed by Arnold Jackson of Great Britain and had to settle for the silver medal. Abel Kiviat, one of the first Jewish athletes to compete in the Olympic Games. Abel Kiviat, America's oldest living medal winner.
We lived on a boat. That included eating and sleeping. It was a small motor boat would tow a half a dozen equivalent to rowboats, as we call them in America. And 5 or 6 or 7 of the boys go on with a little pack or something wrapped up in a couple of towels, a running suit and shoes, and maybe a little toilet article or two, because we didn't know how long we're going to be there. You know, the Olympics were different in many ways than they are today. They had events that you don't see anymore. They had the tug-of-war. Americans never did well in the tug-of-war. And they had lots of standing events. The standing high jump and the standing long jump. And they had gymnastics. And the gymnastics took place right on the field. And they had things like rope climbing and exhibitions and a funny kind of gymnastics. Sort of a dance or walking in uniform doing a bit of gymnastics, you know. 1, 2, things like that, you know, that you see pictures of. And I never saw it before. And the women had the long dresses, and it looked like they had knickerbockers underneath it. You know, The men had that with a buckle around below the knee over the stockings. And they also had strange throwing events, putting the shot with both left and right hands. And Ralph Rose, our guy, won that thing. And he could put it with either hand. And it's a good thing he did, because he was beaten by Pat McDonald in the regular shot put. And he was a policeman on 43rd Street and Broadway in New York, in front of the Times building that had the big electric light system, giving out the weather and the time of the night. And you know, there were a lot of New York cops on the team, Irish cops. And they called them the Whales because they were so big. And they threw those heavy weights, and they sort of protected me. This nut we had, the American discus thrower, he used to pick a little bit on me. He weighed 225 stripped, and you know what I weighed, a little over 100 pounds, a shrimp. He was 6'2" or 3. An ugly-looking guy, like a gorilla. So the weightmen were very nice, pat me down, Mountain Grant and Gillies, warned him. They're gonna throw him through the porthole, even though it's locked. And he may not be able to get through it. They managed to get him through, they said, if he didn't leave me alone. And he stayed away from me. But the real giant, not in size, mind you know what I mean, was Jim Thorpe. To me, he was the greatest. For instance, when we were in the hotel, we were in a big room, and I had a big crystal with a bunch of lights, enormous crystal, about 6 or 8 feet in diameter. And with us were the standing high jumpers, Platt Adams and his brother Ben, and the running high jump champion, Riches. And I don't know what started. Said, can you touch that? Americans are noted for doing queer things. So we made a bet, a wager. And it came to Riches, who won the Olympic high jump. He couldn't come anywhere near it. It was about 8 to 9 feet off the... So eventually we asked Thorpe to try it. He did it. And we all made a grab for the money. And you know, the foreigners then were way ahead of us, like in training. We younger ones, the ones around 18 to 20, that was gonna run 2 races, one on Saturday and Sunday. We'd train 1 day a week and Wednesday and get a good massage. In Europe, you know, you gave you a massage from your head to your toes. Not like the American rubbers, the ex-prize fighters, knuckle you to death. And you know, they told me afterwards, there were a lot of important people who saw me in the 1,500-meter race. High-dressed women in there, and the king with the top hat. It was the royal family, and probably some of their very dear close friends. Other princes or king or whatever you call them, you know, sorors. You know, after 72 years, people still ask me if I'm upset that I didn't win the gold medal in the 1,500-meter race. What's wrong with the silver? What could be more? It's like eating with the President of the United States and being made welcome and getting a prize, a medal from him, and talked about, and the papers writing you up, and your picture appear and everything, and your parents said, whoo, wonderful. Most wonderful thing in life, particularly for a little Jewish boy. Just like graduating from school or college and walking up the bench in your robe and hat and getting a diploma. In high school, you just got a diploma, and you had to walk up to the platform or stage. Same thing in the Olympics. You walk up the stage, if you finish 1, 2, 3, you got a medal and a wreath, and a lot of people save their uniforms for a long while. Put in a glass case. I know a couple of boys put their uniforms in. Lord knows what became of mine.